Hello and welcome to Confessions of a Godly Wife. I'm Eunice, your spiritual midwife and coach. And I want to thank you for joining us in this series entitled The Real Wonder Woman. Today we're going to talk about standing in the gap. So, one of the most powerful images of Wonder Woman is watching her step directly in front of danger. I mean, bullets are flying everywhere. There's chaos, there's fear, and yet she positions herself between the attack and the people that she is protecting. She stands in the way of what's trying to harm them. And when I think about that, I can't help but think about the warrior wife, because in the spirit, we do the same thing. There's a role that many wives do not fully recognize that they carry, not just as a wife, not just as a mother, but as a spiritual protector. Because one of the greatest responsibilities of a warrior wife is knowing how to stand in the gap. So, Wonder Woman, she will physically place herself between danger and the person that she loves. She will intercept attacks. She'll block what was meant to hurt or harm other people. She understands that protection requires positioning. And as a warrior wife, we do the same thing spiritually. We stand in prayer, we intercede, we cover our family. We recognize the attacks before others do. And instead of ignoring them, we take our position spiritually. This is so important because standing in the gap is not passive. Intercession is not passive. And prayer certainly is not passive. Sometimes people think that prayer, that's the least you can do. But in reality and in the spirit, it's the most powerful thing you can do. Because when a warrior wife prays, she's stepping into the space between what the enemy wants to do and what God has declared. She's refusing to leave her family uncovered. She's refusing to stay silent when things are under attack. And that's why Ezekiel 22 and 30 is so powerful, because God said, I searched for someone to stand in the gap. I want you to think about that just for a moment. God Himself was looking for someone willing to position themselves spiritually on behalf of others, someone willing to stand between destruction and the people connected to them, which means standing in the gap is not an emotional concern, but it's a spiritual positioning. And positioning matters when you're in a battle, because where you stand will determine what you are protecting. So a warrior wife understands this spiritually. She understands that ignoring spiritual attacks does not make them go away. She understands that her silence can leave things exposed. And she knows that love is not just emotional. Sometimes love looks like warfare. It looks like praying when you're tired. It looks like covering someone who does not even realize they need covering. And that's why this image of Wonder Woman blocking bullets is so powerful. Because in the spirit, many warrior wives, we're doing the exact same thing every single day. We stand between the attack and the people that we love. Sometimes this can be difficult, okay? Because I know, trust me, I know standing in the gap can feel exhausting when nobody sees it. Because your intercession is often invisible work. Nobody sees you praying. Nobody sees your tears. Nobody sees that spiritual weight that you carry. But just because it's not seen does not mean it's not significant. Some of the greatest battles are won privately before they ever manifest in the public. So, as a warrior wife, we have to understand this. Our position in prayer matters more than we realize. So, then the question becomes, what are you protecting spiritually? What are you covering consistently in prayer? Because a warrior understands something that's really important, and that is whatever remains uncovered becomes vulnerable. So remember this: when you stand in the gap, it is not weakness. It is actually one of the greatest forms of spiritual strength because it requires sacrifice, it requires consistency, and it most definitely requires love. So every time you choose to pray instead of quit, every time you choose to stand instead of walk away, you are taking your position as a warrior and you are standing in the gap. Remember, though, that no warrior can stand in the battle uncovered. Protection requires armor. So, before you, as a warrior wife, before you can fight effectively, you have to understand what you've been given to wear. So, on the next episode, we're going to talk about the armor of the warrior wife. But before I close this episode, I want to speak directly to the women who are listening, and you have found that this series felt personal for you. And maybe you are in a difficult season in your marriage, and there are a lot of things happening, and you've been trying to hold on to hope. You've been trying to hold yourself together, and you're questioning God, and you're wondering why you're walking through this. You don't even know how to navigate this season anymore. I want you to know that you are not alone, and you don't have to walk through this season alone. Over this series entitled The Real Wonder Woman, I've talked about several different things. We've talked about identity. We've talked about the spiritual warfare. We've talked about standing in the gap and learning how to fight spiritually. And I know that this season of your life can feel extremely heavy. And a lot of times you feel like you're alone. And for that reason, I've decided to open my coaching schedule for you wives who are navigating this season, and you, especially if you're believing God for restoration of your marriage. I want you to know that this space was created just for you, created with you in mind. And if you decide to work with me, our goal is not just to help you survive this season, but I want to help you grow and to be grounded spiritually. Because what's most important is your relationship with God. I want to help you move from faith to fear, from confusion to clarity, and from emotional reacting to spiritual understanding. Together, we can focus on your healing, your identity, prayer, and really just strengthening your relationship with God while you are navigating this season. Because believe me, this journey is much bigger than just your marriage, but it's really about who God is forming you to be in this process. So, if you're ready for support, if you need guidance, if you need a safe space to grow through this season, I invite you to apply for my coaching. You can find my link in the description. I would truly be honored to walk alongside you in this journey. So until next time, if this episode has been a blessing, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this series. And I look forward to our next episode. You are the real Wonder Woman.